So, what is up guys? Back to another video, and today we're going to be talking about calories, and seeing as how a calorie is not just a calorie, it's something else entirely. You know, people think calories are just calories, and they think, oh, I'm just going to eat something and it's going to get me energy, it's going to feed me. No. You know, calories is much more complicated than people think. It comes in different categories. People often don't know the difference between those categories, and today I would like to bring light to that shadow that people are not processing. So what we have to know is that we have to know what a calorie is. So a calorie is just a measure of unit of energy, usually measured in joules. So joules are just another form of energy measure, and we use that in order to figure out how much energy there is in that specific calorie given. So a calorie is just energy that's found in food that we need to consume in order to have energy for us, in order to do physical activities, or in order to go outside and do things, in order to live your life in a sustainable way. So in order to function in your daily life, you need to have a good amount of calories in your day in order to function properly. So when it comes to calories, the general function behind it in order to gain weight is that you need to eat a surplus of calories. And a general function to lose weight is that you need to be in a calorie deficit. So being in a calorie deficit means eating less calories than your body needs to function. So what we know about calories is that they are split up into generally 3 different categories that we all know. So onto those calories, you have proteins, fats, and carbs. So we all know what protein does. Protein helps build muscle. It helps repair muscle that's been damaged. So it goes in there and just goes to where it needs to be and does its work. Okay, we all know that. And a quick note is that protein also helps in burning fat because it just increases your metabolism. Because when you ingest protein, usually it's harder for the body to break it down. So you're going to be turning your heat furnace up basically, and your metabolism is just going to start boosting itself, and you're going to be increasing that metabolism capacity that you have, which will result in burning off that energy. So when we consume protein, usually 70% of it generally is absorbed and utilized, and 30% of it would be actually burning off because of how much energy it takes to digest it. And so you can say that we can lose some calories in the process of it. So technically what we consume is not really what we are ingesting in numbers of calories. You know, some proteins can be absorbed more, some proteins can be absorbed less, and then you're, you know, burning off more energy here and there. The general point basis is that it takes a lot for your body to digest protein, and because of that, we can burn off calories coming from protein. So another category is fats. We all know people say fats are bad, fats are demonized, fats are just not good for you. You should be having low fats, fats are not good for you, and stuff like that. But you know, fats are really great for you. They're just highly packed in calories, but they're really great for you. And especially for your hormones. Your hormones work directly with fats. Fats will help you feel good. So having fats in your diet, the good fats, will help you sustain your daily bodily needs, daily bodily functions, and it's what we need to survive. We need proteins, we need fats, we need those two. So the third macronutrient, carbs. So carbs again are demonized. Carbs are bad. Oh, you shouldn't eat carbs, it's gonna convert to sugar and then you're gonna store body fat, blah blah blah, you know. True, if you eat the wrong types of carbs, if you eat the good carbs, well, that's going to be properly absorbed in your body. So any processed foods, any sugary foods that you find, usually when you go to the store and you go into the aisles, usually in the middle section of the store, that's where all the processed food is. So all the packaged goods, all the packaged products, everything that comes into packaging, or just like that's going to last long in your cabinet or shelf space life, is technically a carb that's not going to be well digested, you know, because usually those carbs are mixed with trans fats, you know, and trans fats are bad. You know, good fats are like avocado oil, coconut oil, and stuff like that. Trans fats are the really bad ones. So you don't want to stay away from trans fats. Trans fats are transformed fats. So they come from a large production, you know, industry that just like makes these packaged foods in large amounts, and so they transform these fats and convert them, and they mix it with carbs. And then when you mix trans fats with carbs, you get this chemical pleasure in your mind. You know, you start to crave these desserts. You start to crave, you know, these packaged foods. It's just like kind of like an endless vicious cycle. It's not too good. It's not too good, you know. So you want to stick to healthy fats. You want to stick to healthy carbs. Good example of healthy carbs would be apples, sweet potatoes. I don't know, even spinach is a carb. You know, legumes. You know, vegetables are carbs. You know, fruits are carbs. Anything that's like, you know, whole foods is basically what you want to go for in that basis. So, you know, you can go for rice, you can go for oatmeal, but oatmeal is still packaged. But there are some organic versions of oatmeal that are out there. You know, you want to go for the most organic based foods, you know, basically foods that don't have excessive amounts of ingredients in them. You know, you don't want a long list of ingredients. You want the shortest possible, just to get, you know, just to be on the safe side. And so when it comes to the fourth hidden category, basically fibers, which is something not many people usually go for. Not that much in their diet, which they absolutely need. And so you have two different categories once it comes to fiber. You have the insoluble fibers and you have the soluble fibers. And so I'll explain the difference in the next couple of seconds. I just gotta put the camera, you know, just gotta set it straight every time. And so the important thing about fiber, you know, it's not used in our diet enough. It's not consumed enough. You know, people are having a lot of colorectal problems, intestinal problems, people are having colon problems, people are having a whole bunch of issues and here and there, and then you have cancer rates going up, and then you have a whole bunch of things that are just, you know, happening because people are just focused on packaged food these days. You know, people are focused on things that are going to bring them quick, but, you know, is it nutritious? No. You know, they're going to buy stuff that are not nutritious. They're going to buy stuff that are, you know, satiating, yes, and pleasurable, yes, in the mouth, but they're not going to get any benefits from them. You know, there's no nutrition in packaged foods, there's nothing. And so, especially when you have a lot of food in your diet, you know, fibers will help your digestion. And I'll explain you why it helps your digestion. You have two categories. You have the, like I was saying, you have insoluble fibers and you have soluble fibers. So insoluble fibers are fibers you cannot digest. You cannot digest them, and it's hard on your system to digest. So because of that, your metabolism goes up more in order to digest it in your stomach. You know, so your stomach ramps up so your stomach ramps up the stomach acid. It starts producing more bile, and it just starts to break down the fibers, basically. So that's generating a lot of heat in your body, and because it's generating heat in your body, it is burning off calories in your body. So when you ingest fibers, you crank up the heat, and you are burning off calories. They think, oh, the fiber just helps pass waste, you know, in your colon. And no, it actually helps to burn off calories too. It cranks up your metabolism. So that's going to help a bunch of people. It's going to help a bunch of people burn off excess fat over time if they eat large amounts of fiber in their diet. Usually the recommended amount for women is 20 to 25, and for men it's like 20 to 25 grams around too, you know. So if you eat around close to, you know, 20 grams a day, that's a good indication that you're eating enough fiber. And that's equivalent to, let's say, 8 or 7 apples. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. You know, it's a lot to eat, but hey, you're gonna get filled up and you're gonna burn off some energy. You're gonna burn off some calories just by simply eating fibers, which is what you want to do. Insoluble fibers helps you push waste out of your colon. It helps you digest better, basically. So when you eat lots of meat, when you eat lots of protein in your diet, you want to eat a lot of insoluble fiber, which will help push all that digestive food that's stuck in your colon. It's gonna help push it out. You want to push it out because if it sits in your colon, it becomes toxic waste, and then your gut is going to say, what are you doing to me? this is horrendous. I feel you're gonna feel like shit. You know, you won't feel good. You know, so you want to push it out, right? Or else you'll be farting excessively. You'll be having a lot of bloating. You know, which you don't want. You don't want that. You want a flat stomach. You want to look good. You know, you want to feel good. You want to, you know, just feel alive. You know, you don't want to feel like shit in your bed ridden, right? So that's insoluble fiber. It just helps push things out. And now we have soluble fiber. And now this fiber is actually digested. This fiber is going through your small intestines. And what happens to that fiber is that it's turned into this sort of foam, like you could say protective coating in your intestines. And so the soluble fiber moves through that. It helps basically move the food nice and easy through your intestines. You know, it's just like it just helps digest the food as well better, so you take in the nutrients better as well. So that's what soluble fiber does. It just helps you take in nutrients better. It just helps you move the food around a bit too. But insoluble fiber will help you push that food through your colon. You know, so both fibers play a huge role. Where can we find those fibers? Let's just say usually on the skin of an apple. For example, on the skin of an apple, that's like insoluble fiber. You know, that fiber that's not really digested. It's going to help push and mold the excretions. You know, it's going to help push out your excretions from your colon. And then the soluble fiber is found in the inside of the apple, the flesh of the apple, just inside. And so that helps digest and absorb nutrients better and through your stomach. And usually in people's diets these days, they focus on less fats, less carbs, high protein, and then they don't focus on including fiber in their diet. Well, the thing is that fiber is good, but you don't want too much of it, because if you have too much fiber, it's going to cause bloating. You know, it causes irritation. You know, if you have too much of it, you just want to have the recommended daily amount. You know, you don't want to up it up and increase it. Oh my God, I can burn so much energy off. I'm just going to consume so much fiber. No. You don't want to consume so much fiber and stuff like that. No. You want to just have a moderate consumption of fiber, you know, depending on how much meat you're eating or how much like food you're intaking, you know. And so the recommended amount is just 20 grams around, you know, 20 to 25 grams. And that's for me personally, that's where I feel my best too. If I eat around 20 grams of fiber a day, it helps with digestion. It just helps with, you know, it helps with burning off calories too. And all this, you know, a calorie is just not a calorie, you know. And calories split into those, you know, 4 different little categories. And, you know, you can have so much info about it. There's so much out there on all those like 4 ones. But I'm just giving out, you know, general info so you guys can, you know, kind of fixate around it. And then maybe you guys can ask yourself the questions and say, okay, like a calorie is not just a calorie. A calorie is, you know, more than just a calorie. So that's what I'm trying to bring to the table here, you know. A calorie is not just a calorie, it's something else. It's something else entirely. So when it comes to calories, so explaining all the proteins, the carbs, and the fats, and the fibers, basically. So what we're going to get here is that we need to know how much calories there are per grams of said macronutrients. So here you have proteins. We know that proteins are 4 calories per gram. So basically there's 4 calories per gram of protein here. In carbs we have 4 calories per gram of carbs. For fats, we have 9 calories per gram. So if you eat like foods that have like high fat content, you're gonna have a higher amounts of calories. And so reducing calories, usually you can just reduce fats and you can just reduce calories greatly, because fats contain a much higher number of calories per gram than carbs and proteins. And so that's why people usually go for low fat diets, because they can get away with removing as much calories as possible from the diet to go in a deficit, you know. But it's not too good. You don't want to do that. You want to have, you know, a good balanced ratio. So I'll explain something else later on, according in a video to ratios, but usually you just don't want to play too much with fats. You know, you want to have a good amounts of fats in your diet. It's very good for your hormones. And so the other part here is fibers. So fibers here have 2 calories per gram of fiber that get burnt off in energy. And so what we have to learn here is that these units of measurements for calories have to be taken into account, especially when we're dieting. so that we know what to play around with. So we know we can play around with fats and carbs and proteins, and we just know here that fats have the highest amounts of calories per gram and fibers have the lowest amounts of calories per gram. And so that's why, you know, increasing your fiber is totally fine. So the keynote that what we can take from here is that a calorie is just not a calorie. You know, based on those 4 groups that I mentioned, they each have their own units of measure, you know. So if you want to play around with your diet, knowing those units of measure, you can fix your diet in a way. If you want to go into caloric deficit, you know, you can fix around those measures. So you can lower fats, because you know that fats contain a much higher amounts of calories per gram of fat. So lowering fats, you can lower drastically your calories from your diet to lose as much weight as possible if you want. It's not recommended because you want to keep your fats at a good level, good high enough level to have your hormones working for you, or else you're just going to feel like crap. And so what we can do is work around carbs. You know, we want to keep proteins high. We want to keep those proteins high. We don't want to decrease the amount of proteins we're eating. We want to keep it high because it helps us burn off more energy just by consuming it, and it helps you repair muscle, which is what you want to do to build as much muscle as possible. You want to be eating your proteins as much as possible. So we don't want to reduce protein in our diet. We want to keep it at a high level. What we can reduce in a diet is that we can reduce carbs. We can reduce carbs on, for example, your rest days. You know, we can start reducing carbs there, and you can keep the amounts of carbs in your diet during your working days because you need carbs as energy. But you can also use fats as an energy output as well. You know, so, but I'll explain that in another video that's going to come later on. And I'll be explaining further into what these macronutrients can do and how we can manipulate them to have the proper ratios in order to have a balanced diet as a whole. And so that's it for today, guys. That is all the time I have to make this video. So that's it, folks. That's all I have to say. So thanks for listening, and I'll see you guys in the next one.